Someday was a very thoughtful and long process studio record where we spent months crafting that record and added things like a string section and a lot of organ pads, and it really kind of created this very large sonic texture that was, while we really loved it and are very proud of it, it was slightly impossible to pull off live with just 5 people without using tracks, which is not really our style. I mean, we're very kind of raw, organic, natural band live, and so we really spend more time touring than we do in the studio. We are a very hard touring band. I'm now in my 8th year, and this is somewhere in the 15 to 1600s as far as how many shows I've played. And really, we've always wanted to get in the studio and track live because we felt like we were capable of that. We felt like the band are all really great players, and they all contribute a lot to the arrangements of what we do. And so we knew on this next studio record, which is coming out in February, that we wanted to really track it in a more organic way. So we did this live kind of covers project thing. We took a bunch of songs that had meant a lot to me growing up and kind of formed and helped kind of mold my writing process. And so we kind of went in the studio, and for 2 days we just literally tracked these songs live and didn't do any overdubs, no click, nothing like that. And it came out really well. Turned out exactly how I wanted it to, and even better than I thought it would. For us, we've been fortunate enough to be able to make a profitable living on the road and through our records independently, and we have been approached by labels. But I think for me, a label's primary task is to fund the endeavor, which is not necessarily a need of ours because we do make money on the road, and we have figured out a way to record with good quality but also cheap, or inexpensively, I should say. Or they provide radio support, and our music is not necessarily like super radio friendly, at least in the sense of what you hear on big pop radio. And so we've kind of made a decision. We have really strong management who really understands the kind of new paradigm of the business, of the music business, and we've got great booking, and we have good tour history, and we've gotten a lot of things have happened, a lot of TV placements, so we've gotten a lot of exposure, and there are the videos we've made that have gotten play on CMT and MTV and things like that we've kind of decided that for us, going independent is not only the only option. It's because it's not the only option. We could go with the label, but we've decided to keep it that way because we see a lot more long-term benefit in owning the work that we make, and because we do the lion's share of the work, we think we should get the lion's share of the income from it. So we've got a good team that we believe in, and everybody's on board with that, and so far it's worked really well for us. There was something about music for me as a child and as a teenager and as a college student, and then post-college, even as I was started the career. Something about music was able to communicate to me, to help me understand my life in a way that hardly any other medium could. I mean, I love to read, and I get a lot out of great fiction, and I get a lot out of movies, but something about music, the emotion in music, especially a live show, really stirred me. And I thought, man, if I can do that for someone else, if I can write a song that helps somebody tell their own story, or if I write a song and perform it in a way that somebody is inspired to go out and take a chance. I think for me a defining moment was when I graduated from college, and I've always loved school, and I was a good student and had opportunities to do other things, and I told my dad I wanted to try to do music, and he just pulled me aside and said, son, if you work hard, your mom and I were behind you no matter what. Go out there and try it. And I think that kind of, if I can have the same encouraging mentality to somebody to go out and try to pursue your dreams, whether or not you make it or not, I think it sounds cliche, but it really is important. I think there's a lifestyle decision to take risks and to pursue things that ends up being, the big ideas and the big things that cause a lot of, social change. My brother, for instance, just graduated from college, had an opportunity to make a great living out in Los Angeles, and instead decided to move to Rwanda and run a nonprofit chicken farm. And that kind of decision will influence the way that he does life for a long time. And I think for me, going out on the road when everybody told me I was crazy, and trying to make a living at it was has really defined and changed the way that I see the world. And I think a lot of people have had their stories told partially through our music. I mean, we hear people that have used our songs at funerals and have used our songs at their weddings, and their song, that helps them get through depression, or there's a variety of things that people have given us these great stories, and it's like, wow, this music really has influenced. And I was talking with Bo from Need to Breathe the other day about that's really why we do what we do, is because it helps us tell a better story and helps other people tell a better story about themselves. There's a new song on the record called Tomorrow, and there's the first line of the song is, nothing ever turns out the way you thought it would. Spare me some patience if you could. And I remember watching Conan's last show, on his last time hosting the Tonight Show, which obviously was a major disappointment for him. He only got to host it for 5 months, and he said, I have every right to be bitter, but I'm not going to. I want to tell you something now. And he said, don't be cynical. Nothing will ever turn out like you think it's supposed to. But if you work hard and you're kind, amazing things will happen. And I think for me, the idea that if people walk away with a better understanding, a more thoughtful understanding of their own life, and also have a really good time, I think that's like the great paradox of music, is that like you can hear one song on a record and it makes you just want to get up and dance, and hang out with your friends and just like totally soak it up, and then the next song can bring up all the things that are all the suffering in your life and help you understand those, and you can be in tears. That is like the great paradox of music, is that it can do both of those things to you. And so I think if people feel something deeply and they understand something more about themselves or their relationships, then I feel like that's an amazing gift to me, and hopefully a gift to them, which I think is there's a great exchange. Springsteen talks a lot about, once you create something and put it out there, the artist doesn't control it anymore, doesn't control people's reaction to it, and that actually music and touring is a conversation between the artist and the fans and the people out there who consume the music. It's a conversation, and if I can just continue to bring something to the table in that conversation, then I would consider it a great success. I think in some ways my music reflects my own journey, in that I've had, I grew up in a very thoughtful Christian environment where, my parents loved me well and exemplified kind of, the life of Christ well in my life. And so I don't relate very much to a lot of current, Christian culture. And so that's one of the reasons I chose not to go that route. I don't play Christian music because I grew up never really listening to Christian music. I listened to more Radiohead and U2 and Dylan and Al Green than I ever did anything on Christian radio. And so for me, I think music is supposed to be veiled. It's supposed to be subtle. It's supposed to be an invitation for people to think for themselves and feel for themselves, and not be told how to think and feel. And so for me, I just try to write music that that I myself would want to engage with. It doesn't tell me what to feel, tell me what to think. It paints a picture, and has empathy, like the writer is able to put themselves in other people's shoes. And I'm not in the business of telling someone else what to believe or think or do. I'm just in the business of observing and trying to be vulnerable and trying to be empathetic, and then hopefully out of that will flow something good for people. I think for me, there's like two different kinds of advice. There's the big picture advice, and there's like small pragmatic advice. And on the big picture side, I kind of say the same thing I said about what Conan says. That, work really, really hard, and great things will happen to you, but they will not ever be what you think they will be. I always thought that my career would just, you think you're great and you put out this record and you think it should be awesome, and people don't respond to it very well, and then you realize quickly that you're a lot more impressive in your own eyes than anyone else's eyes. And so I think one piece of advice I tell people is you're never as good as you think you are. You have a lot of things that you think, what you think you sound like is not what you actually sound like. And then on the practical side, I would say two things. One, continue to write and write and write and rehearse. If you want to be a singer-songwriter, that is, you should write all the time. You know, this last record I wrote 45 songs for, and we picked 12. First record I recorded the first 5 songs I wrote, and they were, of course, at that level, not very good. And so I thought they were, but you know, that's why it took a while for me to kind of get the momentum that I have now. And then the second piece of advice I have is really practical: is, you know, a manager, a booking agent, all those things are not going to propel you to whatever you think it is. You've got to get out there yourself and do it. And for every 10 things you try to do, whether it's trying to get the local paper to write about you, or whether it's trying to get a show booked in a town where you think you have some people that might want to come out, or you know, getting a song recorded, etc. For every 10 things you try, if one of them is a success, it's been a really good week. And you should try about 10 different things every week as far as trying to propel yourself forward. And you know, this any artist, it's a mixture of good fortune and hard work. So if you work really hard at it and you don't make it, it doesn't mean you weren't good enough. It just means that for some reason the chips didn't fall in your favor, and that doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means, you know, you gave it your best, and life had something else for you.